The chick flick that Cathy and I had been engrossed in for the past 2 hours finally came to an end. The soft glow of the TV screen illuminated our cozy living room as we sat together, me with one too many beers and Cathy seemingly content with the movie's conclusion. As we relaxed on the couch, Cathy suddenly broke the comfortable silence with a question that caught me off guard. "I don't get it, John. How can a husband be so stubborn as to not understand and forgive his wife for such a small indiscretion?" Her words hung in the air, laden with a weight I hadn't expected. "Small indiscretion?" I repeated incredulously. "She cheated on him, Cathy. That's a big deal. Unacceptable in any situation." Cathy furrowed her brows, her expression pleading for understanding. "But John, love isn't always black and white. Sometimes people make mistakes. It doesn't mean they don't care." I shook my head, unable to comprehend her perspective. "Cheating is a betrayal, Cathy. It's a sign of disrespect. How can you expect someone to forgive that?" Her eyes softened with empathy. "Because forgiveness is the foundation of love. Couples can work through anything if they're willing to communicate and understand each other." I couldn't argue with her logic, but the idea of forgiving infidelity still felt like a bitter pill to swallow. "Maybe in an ideal world," I conceded reluctantly. "But in reality, it's not that simple." Cathy sighed, a hint of frustration tainting her voice. "I just think that revenge isn't the answer. It only perpetuates the cycle of hurt and mistrust." Her words lingered in the air, lingering between us like a silent plea for compassion and understanding. But try as I might, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that lingered in the back of my mind. The evening waned on, the weight of our conversation casting a shadow over the otherwise peaceful night. Eventually, Cathy excused herself, retreating to our bedroom with a heavy heart. Left alone in the quiet of our living room, I couldn't help but dwell on our exchange. The topic of infidelity had never crossed my mind before, and yet here we were, grappling with the implications of betrayal and forgiveness. Lost in thought, I reflected on our relationship, on the years we'd spent together building a life filled with love and laughter. Despite the occasional disagreement, we'd always managed to find our way back to each other, our bond stronger for having weathered the storm together. As I sat alone in the dim light of the TV, I couldn't help but wonder what the future held for us. Would we too be tested by the trials of temptation and mistrust? Or would our love prove resilient enough to withstand whatever challenges lay ahead? Only time would tell. As I pondered the situation further, the absence of Cathy during my work interactions with colleagues gnawed at me. Unlike my co-workers who often had their spouses involved in their daily lives, Cathy's absence stood out starkly. I had always placed my trust in her, never harbouring any doubts about her fidelity. The mere thought of cheating on her never crossed my mind, and I hoped fervently that she reciprocated such feelings of loyalty. However, the recent conversation about infidelity had sparked a newfound curiosity within me. Despite my unwavering trust in Cathy, the notion of snooping around our home crept into my mind. I rationalized it as a precautionary measure, an attempt to reassure myself of Cathy's faithfulness. With our differing work schedules providing me with a window of opportunity, I decided to embark on what felt like an impromptu investigation. Arriving home after my shift around 9 o'clock in the morning, I found myself oddly excited about the prospect of uncovering secrets hidden in the familiar confines of our apartment. Upon entering, a peculiar sweet scent hung in the air, immediately piquing my interest. It was the unmistakable aroma of air freshener, its presence overwhelming. My instincts led me to the fireplace in the living room, where I noticed signs of recent cleaning. The bricks bore traces of wet soot, suggesting recent activity. Driven by a mix of curiosity and apprehension, I meticulously combed through every nook and cranny, searching for clues. The sight of a plastic garbage can in the garage prompted me to sift through its contents, my heart pounding with anticipation. As I laid out the contents on the kitchen table, a mix of black ash, torn scraps of paper, and faded photographs greeted my eyes. Each piece held the potential to unravel the mystery shrouding Cathy's recent activities, compelling me to delve deeper into the enigma before me. But I didn't. All I knew was that she had decided it was important to burn some old papers and photos so I wouldn't find out. That meant something was going on that she didn't want me to know about. After the conversation the night before, I was now getting worried. My whole life was dedicated to Cathy and the future we were building together. Now, it seemed that I was a little remiss in observing what was going on around me. She was not being honest with me about some aspects of her life. I knew very little about her work or her co-workers. I never thought it was necessary for me to know. Well, now she has my attention. I stopped by Radio Shack on my way to work and bought 3 voice-activated digital audio recorders and spare batteries. At the wireless office, they were happy to give me hard copies of the last 3 months' calls on our 2 wireless units. I explained that we were being audited by the IRS and needed the information to verify deductions. I asked for both phones so it wouldn't look suspicious, but threw mine into the shredder at work. For the first time since I got married, I started having bad thoughts about my wife. I didn't like that, but I was just guessing. I got home a few hours before Cathy and had time to set up the recorders, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, and one in the kitchen. I had to adjust the one in the kitchen so it wouldn't record the refrigerator running. I would turn them each on when I left for work in the morning. Dinner was ready when Cathy came home. "Hi, sweetie. I hope the chili is okay," she greeted me. "It sounds good as long as it's not too hot," I replied. About halfway through the meal, I started to probe. "Hey, the house smelled like hell when I got home. It was like a cross between lilacs and burnt rubber. What the hell did you burn in the fireplace before you left for work?" She'd been caught. She had tried to hide that she had burned those things, but now it had come out. "Oh, it was nothing, just some old papers and stuff from school," she tried to explain. "Why the hell did you burn them? Why didn't you just throw them in the trash or run them through the shredder? The way you cleaned the chimney, it looked like you were getting ready for the CSI to come in." "I don't know, or why is it such a big deal, Cathy? I find it very odd that you got up this morning, got ready to go to work, and burned a bunch of old school papers. And then she cleaned it up to make it look like it never happened. Do you blame me for being suspicious? Besides, they didn't look like school papers. They looked like letters and photographs. What the hell did you do? Go rummaging through the trash and pull that stuff out just so you could accuse me of something? Yeah, well, screw you. You do the dishes. I'm going to take a shower and go to bed and read. You can sleep on the couch." Cathy had never spoken to me like that before, but I had never accused her of anything. A few seconds later, the shower was running. I pulled her cell phone out of her purse and copied all her speed dial numbers, all outgoing calls, all incoming calls, and all messages. It only took me a few minutes to scan her phone book into a computer file. I didn't mind sleeping on the couch, but the living room still smelled of lilacs and ash. I had plenty of time off from work, so I took the day off. I turned on the recorders and left the house at my usual time, but went to Denny's instead. Shortly after 8 o'clock, I returned home. Cathy made a call. "Hi, I'm having some problems at home. No, it's nothing like that. She just suspects something is up but has no idea what it is. She's being irritating and it's starting to piss me off. Okay, see you. I guess I can do that. Maybe Friday, see you." I had no idea who the mysterious person on the other end was, but I figured I would soon find out. I wondered what would happen on Friday. I spent the morning at the library going through her phone record. I could have done it at home, but the library's reverse phone book was better than the internet and faster. Of course, it didn't work for cell phones. For that, I was able to eliminate most of the numbers because I knew them or was able to correlate them with her address book. It stood out like a sore thumb, the number of a TR. It was on his speed dial, and in his address book also was a landline number, which turned out to be Tom Rollins. Cathy worked with him at Genex, and in fact I met him a few times. The last time was about 10 days ago at a company event. He and Cathy were very close all night, and I remembered that I didn't like him. He was married to a cute little brunette who didn't seem to be having any fun at the party either. I made a list of all the times Cathy had called Tom in the last 3 months and all the times he had called her. None of the text messages came from him. I assumed that Tom was the one Cathy had called this morning. There were a lot of calls, but I was just guessing. After making a couple of copies of the phone list, I stopped by Tom Rollins' house. I figured I had nothing to lose, so I knocked on the door. "John Connor, I was hoping I could talk to you. Come in," Tom said. Damn, it was an unexpected surprise. "I'm sorry, I'm at a disadvantage here. I know you're married to Tom, but I don't think we've met. My name is Sylvia, but everyone calls me Sly," she said as she extended her hand, and I shook it out of politeness. "John, what I need to talk to you about is the affair your wife and my husband are having," she said bluntly. Wow, it hit me in the face again. I wasn't expecting that either. She seemed to know a lot more than I do. "I'm filing for divorce from Tom, and I'm naming Cathy in the suit. I have a lot of documentation to support it, and would like to assist in several things, Sylvia. I don't mean to give you a hard time about this. But the truth is, I just found out yesterday. I have no information to help you. The only thing I have right now is some phone records." Let me see, she said anxiously. I handed her one of the copies I had and told her she could have it. Sylvia started going through the phone records like an IRS auditor. She made notations in the records and checked the information against the documents she had. She was smiling, and I thought she would burst out laughing at any moment. The more she worked, the more feverish she seemed to get. I finally stepped in. "Is there any information you can share with me? Of course I'm willing to give you everything I have." "This is what I've gathered in the last 2 weeks," she said, handing me 3 motel receipts. They indicated the date, time, and name of the motel. All 3 were different, and all 3 were paid in cash. The donkey doesn't realize that every night when he goes to sleep, I go through his pockets. I take the receipts and he doesn't even notice they're missing. He lives in his own world. "I'm invisible to him," she said, her anger growing apparent. As we talked, he seemed to get angrier and angrier. I started to get a little worried for my safety. I hoped he wouldn't get mad at me for being Cathy's husband. The veins were popping in his neck like a wrestler on TV. "I don't think I've ever seen a woman so furious," she said, making copies of the motel receipts and giving them to me. "I have plenty more receipts and other things if you need them. Oh, wait, let me show you something special," she said, leaving and coming right back with a little zippered baggie. Inside was a pair of women's panties. "Do you recognize them?" she asked. Of course, in the baggie was a pair of grey-green bikini panties that belonged to a set my wife had. I pulled them out of Tom's coat pocket the night of the last company party. He went crazy looking in the closet and in the car, but he didn't dare say a word to me. "Can I borrow them?" she asked. "Only if you promise to give them back to me," I replied. "Deal." For the next hour, Sylvia Rollins ranted like a madwoman. I tried to leave several times but couldn't. Finally, she said she needed to lie down for a while, giving me the opportunity to leave. She mentioned that Tom hated condoms and refused to use them. I had dinner ready when Cathy came home. I was hungry as hell because I had skipped lunch. My wife was cool as a cucumber. I realized why I had never noticed anything. I picked up the plates, I put out a couple of pieces of key lime pie, her favourite, and some coffee. Everything was very quiet. "Cathy, can I ask you a question without you getting mad at me?" I asked. "It's not about the fireplace." "Is it?" she replied. "No, it's something else. Okay, go ahead, she said, sounding cautious. Where are the panties that go with this bra? I held up the greenish-grey push-up bra that went with the panties Sylvia gave me. I don't know. I guess in my dresser. Why the hell are you messing with my underwear? Are you turning into a pervert or something? Cathy retorted, sounding defensive. Would you go get the panties for me? I asked calmly. Cathy sat up and looked at her pie. There was no way I could get the panties, and she knew it. I could tell she was starting to get angry. You know, I just remembered. I threw them away last week. All the top elastic came out, and I didn't feel like fixing them. They were less than a month old, she explained. Cathy, you bought them at the mall 3 weeks ago. How did they wear out so fast? I questioned, noticing her lower lip quivering and veins popping in her neck. Her fists were clenched tightly. It's like you were with Sylvia all over again, I muttered. Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants, tell me what happened to my panties last week when we were getting ready to go to your company party, Cathy demanded. I saw you get dressed. You wore this bra and the panties that go with it. When we got home from the party, you undressed in the bathroom. But I noticed you weren't wearing any panties. How did you lose your underwear from the time we left the house until we got home? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. I think you're wrong. I did have them on when I got home. You just didn't see them, Cathy insisted. Okay, then tell me how they ended up in Tom Rollins' coat pocket, I said, holding up the zippered bag containing the panties. Where the hell did you get them from? Sylvia, Tom's wife? Why, son of a... Stop sticking your nose where it doesn't belong. There's nothing going on between me and Tom, Cathy snapped angrily. I have no idea how his wife got my panties. You got any more crap you want to throw at me? Cathy snapped, her voice edged with frustration. One more thing, Cathy. Here's a little form I made. I'd like you to fill it out. All I want to know is the date and place you met other men outside of our marriage. Here it is for you, I said calmly. As Cathy watched, I filled in the name of the motel and the date she and Tom last met. On the next line, I just put Tom's name and the name of the motel. Fill that in for me, Cathy, and then we'll talk some more, I said, handing her the form. Cathy just stared at the paper, not moving or saying anything. Oh yes, one more thing, I said, raising my voice. I'm a little pissed that you and Tom didn't bother to use any kind of protection. It sucks that you cheated on me, but it's worse that you didn't even have the decency to use a condom. You had no qualms about bringing home some kind of disease to me. That really sucks. Did either of them bother to use protection, or was it just Tom who didn't? Hell no, it was just Tom. He was the only one who didn't use anything, Cathy replied angrily. There was a great silence in the room. I hadn't expected that outburst, and I don't think Cathy thought about what she was saying until it was too late. In her anger, she inadvertently hinted that she had had affairs with other men besides Tom. With one swipe, Cathy cleared half the table and ran out of the kitchen. I heard the bedroom door close as she let out a soft cry. I spent the night in a motel. I called in sick to work and said I'd be gone for a few days. I returned Sylvia's panties as promised. She didn't say anything and seemed very depressed. This time, I didn't press her and left as soon as I could. I found a small motel that rented rooms with kitchens by the week. Cathy wasn't there when I stopped by, so I went in and grabbed as many things as I could. I took silverware, dishes, and some pans. It took me about an hour to set up my new kingdom. As I started to walk out to the car, I saw Tom Rollins about 5 units down. He was carrying bags and boxes of stuff into the room. I couldn't help but chuckle to myself. The son of a was doing the same thing I was doing. Either Sylvia kicked him out or he got fed up and left. It didn't matter. The result was the same. Just then, Cathy's car arrived. She didn't see me or notice my car. They talked a bit and then went into the room. After about 10 minutes, I decided it would be a good time to go to the house and get the rest of my things. I was sure they would be busy for at least an hour. I packed everything I could into the Honda.
I took the computer, the cameras, the portable TV, all my CDs, and even my George Foreman. I was hooking up the answering machine when there was a knock at the door. Mr. Connor? There were two policemen at the door. Yes, are you Cathy Connor's husband? I confirmed. Yes, is she all right? Did something happen? I'm sorry to have to tell you this, sir, but your wife is dead. No, you're wrong. I just saw her about 2 hours ago and she was fine, I protested. Where did you see her? She was at the Desa Motel on Penn Avenue with Tom Rollins. Mr. Rollins is dead too, one of the policemen said solemnly. How? They were shot, I exclaimed, feeling a wave of shock and disbelief. Look, I've been here for the last 2 hours and I don't even have a gun. There's no way, I insisted, trying to process the news. Take it easy, Mr. Connor, take it easy. We've got the shooter. Mrs. Rollins shot them both as they were coming out of their room. She emptied her gun into them and then called 911. She was sitting by the bedroom door crying when we arrived. Are you going to be okay, or do you need someone to stay with you? The other officer asked, concern evident in his voice. No, I'll be fine, thank you, I replied, trying to absorb the shock of the situation. Would either of you like to buy a placemat? I added suddenly, feeling the need to break the tension. A week ago, everything was fine. What the hell had happened? I was guessing, lost in a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief.